First, the death of a man who changed modern music in the way it was presented. Highway 37 in Sonoma County is still closed tonight because of the helicopter crash that killed rock promoter Bill Graham, his pilot, and a female friend. It happened late last night about 5 miles east of Vallejo. That's where Graham's helicopter slammed into a 200-foot power pole over the marshlands. Jennifer Arthur begins our coverage.
One body was recovered just beneath the Sonoma Creek Bridge this afternoon. The wreck represents the end of an era in rock and roll.
Bill Graham, along with his close friends Stephen Kahn and Melissa Gold, died last night in a helicopter crash at around 10 p.m. somewhere near Vallejo. These three people were dear to all of us who knew and worked with them, and we miss them very much.
The rock promoter's Bell Jet Ranger helicopter is still perched 200 feet above ground in an electrical tower. Because of high winds and other safety concerns, authorities won't guess when they can free the chopper from the tower. Graham was headed to a landing pad at Noss Field in Novato. He was returning home to the Bay Area after a Huey Lewis concert at the Concord Pavilion. The first call came into Sonoma County Sheriff's about 10:20 last night.
We received a call of a helicopter into the power lines. Preliminary reports were that it was on fire. All the emergency services people were dispatched to the area. It's my understanding that the ambulance was the first one on scene.
But by that time, there was nothing ambulance workers could do. The crash shut down Highway 37, and State Highway Patrol says 37 won't reopen until sometime late tomorrow. Power was knocked out to 24,000 PG&E customers. We're told it has been restored everywhere except the Skaggs Island Naval Installation.
PG&E spokesman Ron Rutkowski says that Skaggs Island Naval Installation may be without power through next week. He says that's because after the helicopter is removed and the tower is repaired, the lines will have to be restrung. I'm Jennifer Arthur reporting live from the Eyewitness Newsroom. Doug and Barbara, back to you.
Okay, Jennifer, thanks for the
a lot,
report.
Jennifer.
About Bill Graham, the comedian Robin Williams once said, "He gives great stadium." That, as much as anything, sums up what Bill Graham was best known for, giving music fans a really great concert and a great time. Over the past 25 years, those words, "Bill Graham presents," have become synonymous with cutting-edge and high-quality entertainment. Right from the beginning, Graham said he wanted to give people their money's worth.
Jefferson Airplane, John Handy Quintet, and Sam Thomas and Mystery Trim.
The beginning was a concert in 1965 to benefit the San Francisco Mime Troupe. It was a huge success. It let Graham know he was on the right career track.
I got lucky some years ago and found my métier, so to speak. Found something to my liking that I enjoy it, and I also seem to be successful at.
Luck seemed often to be with Graham, but not always. In the 1980s, an arsonist set his offices on fire, destroying 2 decades of mementos. Graham said if he had been a woman at the time, he would have felt raped. But no fire could burn away from the public's memory all the legends Graham's concerts helped create. No doubt about it, Graham made millions of dollars for his multifaceted business. But he also helped to raise millions of dollars for groups and causes ranging from Nelson Mandela's African National Congress to 1989 earthquake relief.
I get sick and tired of people saying, "Oh, the world is terrible, the streets are dirty, there are too many drugs, the wars." What else do you do? You kvetch? What else do you do? If you have the ability to do something, do it. If not, shut up.
Throughout his career, Graham never lost touch with the audience that had made him successful, young people. Right up to the end, he was giving them what they wanted in music while introducing them to something new, like at this Lollapalooza concert in July with acts such as Jane's Addiction and Living Color.
Today's young people have a more difficult time. The world is worse off today, and survival is the rule of the day, and they come here just to get away from reading the papers and seeing what's on the channels.
Even Bill Graham would have had a hard time following his own act. He will indeed be a tough act to follow.
To give you some idea of how hard someone would have to work to follow in Graham's footsteps, his production organization, Bill Graham Presents, produces over 500 shows each year just in California alone, and many others throughout the world.
And with us now is a man who has known Bill Graham for 25 years. Dr. David Smith founded the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic in 1967. Thanks for being with us tonight. How important was Bill Graham to this, in those early days, to the success of the clinic?
Without Bill Graham, the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinics would not exist. When I started the clinic, we had a very short life expectancy because we didn't have any support, and he called me up and said, "You're doing good work," and came down and organized a series of benefits, and as a result we've now survived and grown and expanded, and we've maintained a close relationship not just with Bill but also Bill Graham Presents. His favorite part of our clinic was the rock medicine section that delivered the medical services to all of his rock concerts. But for example, he held a benefit in 1970 with Creedence Clearwater that started our heroin treatment program, and he was a great man that did many, many things, and he's really the patron saint of our Haight-Ashbury Free Clinics.
You were telling me earlier that you were in the midst right now, in fact, of planning something with Bill Graham to benefit the clinic.
Yes, that's why this is just an unbelievable tragedy. I was just talking with him last week. He was organizing a benefit for our 25th anniversary, because we all started in the 60s, the bands, the clinic, Bill's organization, and he had this sense of community and spirit that he was a very loyal friend, and it is really hard to believe that this happened.
You say the sense of community. Why was that? You know him pretty well. Why do you think that? Why do you reach out and touch your group and so many others?
Well, I've had many talks with Bill about this. He had seen evil and injustice in his life, and he really felt a commitment to try to make the world a better place. Bill loved his family, he loved his organization, he loved the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic. He was a very compassionate man, and his spirit permeated all of us.
Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight, Doctor, and sharing that with us.
Now, Graham's friends are asking that memorial donations be sent to the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic. You can send those donations to the address shown on your screen. It is 409 Clayton Street in San Francisco, and the zip code is 94117.
Bill Graham touched the lives of people around the world as well as here in the Bay Area, but he is best known, of course, for the music. And tonight we talked with the Grateful Dead's publicist and with the mayor of San Francisco, Art Agnes.
Our relationship long ago went past him being a promoter. He is a promoter, and the best promoter in America, the most creative. This is the man that had Woody Herman, the Woody Herman Big Band open for The Who. This is a man with style, and for that we miss. But right now what we're really talking about is losing another member of our family.
Bill Graham's loss is a devastating one to not only San Francisco, but to everyone who loved the arts and loved music in this country. Bill Graham was the embodiment of the modern San Franciscan. He had a great reverence for the history and traditions of San Francisco, and at the same time a great energy for contributing to our society around the world.
Bill Graham will be buried in a private funeral service on Monday. Besides donations to the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic, the family has suggested making a donation to any educational organization in Bill Graham's name.
Now, we will be back in a moment more on Bill Graham, and we'll hear from people who knew him, others who knew him well, and give you an idea of a few of the things he accomplished when we come back. Bill Graham is credited with launching some of the biggest names in rock and roll at some of the most popular venues on both coasts. Graham opened the Winterland and Fillmore West in San Francisco and the Fillmore East in New York. He had a hand in the production of hundreds of concerts, including Live Aid and the Amnesty International concert. And the artists he worked with could fill a book. Here are just a few, from the Grateful Dead to Sting and U2, from Lou Reed and Richie Havens to Jimi Hendrix and Bob Dylan, from the Allman Brothers Band to Tina Turner and Mick Jagger. Bill Graham talked about his experience in the music business in a radio interview back in 1971.
I learned a lot from it. I've learned a lot from the community here. even though I'm sure you've heard many stories about me throwing people out of windows and kicking them and beating them and whatnot, I think I've learned to become somewhat more mellow. But just by being around the people in San Francisco, although I tend to feel that the majority of them really have no conception of what it's been like to run this kind of a business, I'm somewhat very sad that a great number of people really never understood, and even though that I'm far from being an angel and I've made a lot of mistakes, as any human being does, over the years I think we've given the city a very fair shake, and I think, like I said before, we've been a plus rather than the minus for the community.
Bill Graham was a very complex man, tough, compassionate, energetic, and ruthless. Tonight we talked with San Francisco Chronicle columnist Joel Selvin, who knew Graham for 20 years. Here are some of his thoughts.
He was an amazing man. He lived his life on this enormous stage. You cannot appreciate the magnitude, the dimensions that he saw his life in. And at the same time, you know, he really was a sort of New York street smart con man hustler too. Well, he wrote the rule book to producing concerts. When he started in the business 25 years ago, there were no definite parameters for rock concerts. It was a very peripheral part of the entertainment business, and during the course of his career, it grew into an enormous business, a big business, $1 billion a year business. He was a very proud man, and proud of what he did, and money was never the primary reason why he did anything. He did things because he wanted to do them, because he saw that they could be done, and invariably saw himself as the only one who could do them. I think his favorite bands were the Grateful Dead and Tito Puente, and when asked who the greatest performer he ever saw was, he always said Otis Redding. I've never met anybody who had as expansive a personality as Bill Graham. And by that I mean he could encompass almost any range of behavior. He was capable of being the most genial, funny, gracious host. He was also capable of being mean, even cruel, bitter. He could be incredibly generous. He could be unbelievably petty. Whatever he was always intense and going full speed.
Ben Fong Torres also has some vivid memories of Bill Graham. They first met more than 25 years ago when Fong Torres was working for a new San Francisco magazine called Rolling Stone.
By the time I had met him, he had already gathered a pretty strong reputation for what he was, which was, in very stereotypical terms, that of a raging capitalist in times when it was supposed to be all free and lovey-dovey and groovy and great vibes. He was into that, but paramount, he was a businessman. And he recognized that, he accepted that, he had no problems defining himself that way. And so, because of that, he was often at odds with people who would come to his concert and say, hey man, music should be free, man. And Bill would just say, yes, music probably should be free, mister. However, I have to pay the people who provide the sound. I have to pay my utilities. I have to pay my employees. Do you expect them to go into a store and get free milk? And he said that he feared failure. Probably that was his biggest fear in life. He came from very, very hard times as an infant, as a child, as a young man. And to find success gave him the feeling that success was like a drug that he couldn't let go of. And he said that too. That was a direct quote, saying, for me, success is like a drug, and it's awfully hard to stay away from it. He, as much as anybody, symbolized the endurance of some of the values of the 60s, maybe the best values. And I suppose we're talking about what might be called the conservative values, the straighter values of taking care of business, taking care of one's own, taking care of family, and taking care of the surrounding community. And so a person like Bill, who did donate heavily to such organizations as the Glide Memorial Church and the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, bread and roses, anything that came along that was catastrophic for either a community or a single person. He seemed to be there with help, and I think that will be missed. He was a loud and effective spokesperson for rock and roll, freedom of speech, the First Amendment, artistic rights and values, and he was so singular in the way he could articulate his thoughts that too will be missed. So it's a big voice, it's a big pair of shoes, it's a big auditorium that is empty now.
That was journalist Ben Fong Torres talking about a man who changed modern music, Bill Graham. And we'll have more on the life and career of Bill Graham later on in this newscast.
Once again, rock promoter Bill Graham was killed along with 2 other people in a helicopter accident near Vallejo last night. He will be buried in a private funeral on Monday. Instead of flowers, the family is asking donations be made to the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, the address on your screen, or give to any educational organization in Bill Graham's memory.
As we told you earlier, Bill Graham had a wide range of interests from music to movies. Tonight we close with a portion of a movie which contained the band's last tour, organized by Bill Graham from the movie The Last Waltz.
Thank you very much.